a lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Yes. People, we're back in the building. You know what time it is, man. You know what it is. It's G, and we are here for today's post-match reaction for Newcastle versus Liverpool. But, you know, before we dive into anything, please, as you can see, as always, scroll across the bottom. If you can please smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Big up to everybody who has subscribed. And if you're watching this video and you like some of the content, obviously over here at GTV, please make sure you smash that like button. We are moving. So obviously Liverpool, or Newcastle, should I say, versus Liverpool, St. James's Park. Liverpool got the 2-0 win. Got that 2-0 win. That is now back-to-back victories. This ain't no Drake tune. But Liverpool obviously got them back-to-back victories now. Everton and obviously Newcastle heading into that game against Real Madrid. Feeling good about themselves, man. Feeling good about themselves. You know, fans are a lot happier. You know, it's one of those. It is one of those, man. You know, it's only 2 victories, of course. At the end of the day, you can only beat who's in front of you as well. So there's not really much you can do in terms of the opposition. We all thought, you know, coming into this game, it was a tough game, obviously, as it panned out. Newcastle obviously going down to 10 men. Nick Pope getting himself sent off in that first half. Silly red card, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people are kind of feeling sorry for him and stuff like that. Obviously, Newcastle got that Carabao Cup final against Manchester United. I think it's next week. But ultimately, I don't really care. Do you know what I mean? That's on Nick Pope, unfortunately. Next time, don't do that. You know, don't be handballing, you know, the ball outside of your box. And it wasn't, you know, I saw Eddie Howe, you know, speak about, you know, it was a bit harsh. I was like, rah. I don't know what game you've been watching recently in today's football, in yesteryear's football. I don't know where that would have not have been a red card, to be honest with you. Some people mention about, you know, I believe there was a defender just behind him at the time of the red card, or at the time when he handballed it. It's a red card, bro. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, I like Nick Pope. I think he's a good goalkeeper. They're definitely going to miss him. I mean, I think the Bravka is cup tied, which is so weird because he went to Manchester United from Newcastle, whatever. He's cup tied. So they're going to have Loris Karius in goal. Hey, man, you guys are going to have to sort that one out yourself. You know, that is actually hilarious to see that. But that probably then means that, you know, Karius is going to put on a world-class display, more than likely. So, you know, we'll wait and see. But obviously, that's Newcastle's issue. That's Newcastle's beef. They're going to have to, you know, pattern that themselves. But obviously, we're here to talk about the game last night. So 5:30 kickoff. Again, we saw Arsenal come in with a late victory against Aston Villa. We saw Manchester City drop points. We saw Chelsea drop points, losing to Southampton. You know, so it was kind of on the onus was kind of on Liverpool, you know, coming into that game, especially at that time as well. Can they get the victory? And I think what we're seeing now, or what us as fans, Liverpool fans anyway, I think what we care about at this current moment in time is we just want to get the victories. We don't really care, I guess, how these victories come about. We just need to get the victories if we're trying to chase, you know, that 4th position. And listen, if you'd asked me this 2 weeks, well, you did ask me, you know, 2 weeks ago, do I believe Liverpool can get that top 4? I would have said, nah, not at all, man. You know, it's not even that I couldn't see where our next victory was going to be, even though that was, you know, that was the case. I always knew he was going to win a game at some point in time. You know, I don't think with that shit, but at the same time, I think these games that are coming up, especially the games Liverpool have got coming up as well, coming up next, you know, it's funny because I'm going to sit here and say they're winnable games. Of course they are. I believe we've got Wolves coming up next as well. I think Bournemouth as well, you know, so they're winnable games on paper, of course, you know, and if Liverpool are coming into this or coming into those games with the form and the appetite that they've played in the last 2 games, forget the Real Madrid game in itself, because that's more like an anomaly, obviously it being Champions League and stuff like that. But if Liverpool come into those games with the same kind of energy, the same intensity, as I said, the same appetite, then they can win those games. But my thing is, and just before we dive into the game in itself, is we've seen this story before. We've seen this story before. Liverpool going on runs, not runs, but going on little sequences, shall we say? We went on that 4-game sequence, just before the new year, and then since the new year, we've only now gotten our second victory of 2023 in the Premier League. We're now in February. We're in the middle, near the end of February, to be honest with you, and we've only picked up our second Premier League win of the year. So that kind of tells you where we're at as a team. We had the sequence before, I say sequence, but we had the 2 games before, earlier on in the season, where we defeated Manchester City, gallant performance, brilliant display by a few of the players. Then went away. Then we had West Ham at home, beat them 1-0, tough game again. So you thought, okay, Liverpool, getting on a run. Then came Nottingham Forest and Leeds United, and we lose both of those games, and it's like, all right, fair enough. Then, as I said, we go on that run just before Christmas, just before Christmas, just before the World Cup. Come back after the World Cup. Continue, playing. I wouldn't say we're playing well. We're just playing better than what we were or what we have seen, this season and stuff like that. And then we go on obviously, as I said, this crappy run, since the turn of the year. So I see a lot of people, a lot of fans, and rightly so, I guess, in terms of, Liverpool are back and stuff like that. I think it's difficult to say this season, especially, and this word gets overused in my personal opinion, with the whole credit in the bank stuff. It's all irrelevant, in my personal opinion. Again, I'm not saying it's factual, but just in my personal opinion, when we talk about, credit in the bank, Jurgen Klopp and the team, they're so used to going on these runs and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, the old team were, the team that had the right mentality, the team who, wins were very easy and forthcoming for them. We weren't a team who used to worry, in the last few seasons anyway, we weren't a team who used to really worry about, sequences and stuff like that, because even if we had lost a game or drawn a game, you knew that, okay, that Liverpool going to go on a 5, 6, 7 game run, whether that be all wins or not, it doesn't really matter. We just knew we'd go on that kind of run. But this season, it's difficult. It's very difficult to even, it's funny because it's almost difficult to then even be happy at when you're seeing some of these victories, because you're saying, as I said, this is just going by, a lot of people saying, yeah, Liverpool are back and stuff like that. I always find it funny because you fall into that trap of saying things like that. And again, it might just be the emotion and stuff like that, which again, totally understandable. But you fall into that trap of, oh yeah, doing well and this, that, and the third and blah, blah, blah. But context is so key in football. And unfortunately, I'm a content creator, and I'm someone who's very analytical in that sense, in terms of how I try to look at the game and, stuff like that. At the end of the day, this is Liverpool of this season. So to sit here and think that they're back, I think you'd be kind of a fool to, even think that. But what you can say is Liverpool playing a lot better in these last couple of games than they have been just since the turn of the year, to be honest with you. Even before that, to be honest, I think, I wouldn't say that again, wouldn't say it's only 2 games. So it's difficult to really say, yeah, you got your appetite back and stuff like that. I think you look at it after about 10 games or so, you look at that kind of 10-game sequence, and then you say, okay, cool. We've all, at least until the middle of March, for example, you start looking at it then, and then you can really start saying, okay, yeah, Liverpool have been on a good run, playing well, players are starting to play better, in certain positions, stuff like that. The team looks a lot more cohesive, going forward, in defensive transitions, all of these kind of various different things. I think it'll be easier to kind of judge that then. At the moment, we're just here now. Again, I always stress it all the time. We take one game at a time. You have to take it one game at a time, because what you don't want, and what I see quite a lot on social media, especially, and just talking to other Liverpool fans and stuff like that, is it's always really, really high or really, really low. There's never really a middle ground. And I think that's probably where I kind of fit in, is that you never get too high during your wins, you never get too low during your defeats. Obviously, if the defeats continue and you're playing really, really poorly, understandable, you're going to get really, really low. It's when you're winning, I think that's always the measure. Ultimately, we're not a Manchester United of old, where we're so used to just winning Premier Leagues and this and that and Champions League and whatever the case may be. We're kind of trying to really build that, to be honest with you, with Jurgen Klopp here at the helm. So I think that when we're seeing games like this, especially a game like yesterday, because again, a game like yesterday, Liverpool ran out 2-0 winners, clean sheet, again, another clean sheet, which is so important. That's probably the biggest takeaway I had from the game, was being able to get that clean sheet, because as we've seen this season, we've been so easy to play against. And again, I still think we're one of the worst teams in terms of how we actually play and stuff like that. We can have our moments like we had, against Newcastle. We'll always have our moments, but in a general sense, I think the way that we play, the style and stuff like that, it's not something that I'm, really a fan of. But like I said, between now and the end of the season, all I care about is just getting the wins. Can we just get the wins? Can we paper over the cracks is what I really want. Can we paper over the cracks so that we can get back in the summer? We're not in a, awful position where difficult to attract players, out of the Champions League, and all these kind of various different things, which then has an impact on your future. Maybe this season can just be used as that kind of, okay, look, we messed up, the staff, the players and stuff like that, owners, everything. We messed up. Can we move on from this situation? Can we learn from this season? What are the things that we need to take away? And obviously there's going to be, a raft of things that they can, possibly take away. But we're looking at yesterday's game. As I said, Liverpool ran out 2-0 winners. Darwin Nunez getting the first goal. They thought it was handball. I don't know why. I mean, it hit off his chest, so it is what it is. But Darwin Nunez scoring the first goal, and then Cody Gakpo getting the second, all in quick succession. I think it was in a 6-7 minute period of time. Trent even mentioned this at the end of the game. We killed them off with 2 quick goals, and I think that kind of just knocked their confidence. But Newcastle still had chances, even going down to 10 men. And I think that was then the worry for me. Was I was then, looking at that game and thinking, okay, how are we going to play now? What's it going to look like? It's difficult playing against 10 men, regardless of who you are, because 10 men are going to play a lot more differently than they do with 11 men, because they've got that disadvantage of one player, and you've got that advantage with an extra player. But the way the game was kind of panning out, it almost looked like we had 10 and they had 11. They were finding spaces, pockets of space in behind our defense, out in the wide areas. They almost scored from a corner. I think it was Dan Burn. It was very weird. It was such a very weird second half performance, as a whole, which again didn't really like. But that's then looking at the negatives of everything. But when we look here, you can see obviously Liverpool's average position, in the game. You got Mo Salah, obviously the kind of lone man up top, if you want to say right wing, but to be honest, I'd say that was kind of more up front more than anything. Cody Gakpo kind of again, and I dropped my video on Cody Gakpo talking about the role that Klopp wants him to play, in the future and stuff like that. Again, look at him dropping deeper. He's just a little bit deeper than the Darwin Nunez in terms of the average positions. He's almost playing effectively as an attacking midfielder. Which then allows obviously Mo and Darwin to kind of do their thing up top. Newcastle's average position, obviously this is a bit crazy just because they had the goalkeeper sent off and stuff like that. But St. Maximum in behind Isak, who was up top. Callum Wilson obviously came on. They tried to play a lot more narrow than we did. We did try to like spread it wide, obviously with Robbo and Trent on that side. So I think that was kind of the game in itself. Was we were trying to play wide, they were trying to play narrow, which maybe then hindered I felt like it almost hindered what both teams were trying to do, because out wide, did I feel that we were that good out wide? I thought it was okay. I thought we played all right out wide, but for some reason because we were playing so wide, I then felt that we were a little bit isolated in the middle. And again, that's going to be a problem. And Klopp again, I'm not just saying this, but again, Klopp's then alluded to that at the end of the game, talking about Newcastle having their chances and things like that, and things that we need to improve upon, because he knows he's not silly. I've never thought he was a silly man. Well, in certain aspects, but he can see the game at the end of the day. He can see that this isn't. We don't need it to be perfect. We just need it to be better. But at the end of the day, if the sheer fact I'm saying that we need it to be better, is because I know where Liverpool used to be. I know what Liverpool can do. I know the kind of levels Liverpool should, be hitting regardless. So, I think it's just more of a case of that. Little stat here, Mo Salah, I found this absolutely hilarious. Mo Salah had the least touches of any outfield player to play 90 minutes. So, does that mean that Mo Salah, people keep saying, yeah, Mo Salah looked like he's got his mojo back? I don't think so. Because if we saw a stat like this, like we've seen for Erling Haaland. People get onto Erling Haaland for that all the time. All the time they get onto him. Oh, he barely touches the ball and stuff like that, even though he is the best finisher, in the Premier League. Well, alongside maybe like a Harry Kane or something like that, but and an on form Marcus Rashford. These Haaland barely gets any touches, but will get his goals. Mo kind of does the same thing. Obviously, yesterday got himself an assist, beautiful assist for Cody Gakpo. But we don't say anything. It's oh no, it's fine. He played well. I don't think he played that well. I thought it wasn't one of his better games. I felt like he played a lot better against Everton. And again, even the sheer fact that you had the least amount of touches out of any outfield player on the pitch kind of tells me that you weren't really in the game, to be honest with you. Whether that's because you needed to be, you didn't need to be, whether they kind of blocked you from doing so, I don't really know. It is one of them things, man. But when we look here, looking at Cody Gakpo again, this is his positioning in the game. Gakpo, decent performance, decent again, better against Everton. I think the performance against Everton was a lot better than this performance that we had yesterday. Again, I don't know if that's just because they went down to 10 men, so it changed things a little bit and blah, blah. I don't know. But in terms of when I'm looking at the overall performance, I preferred that performance against Everton than I did against Newcastle. Newcastle are a better team, so it is going to be more difficult than it would be against Everton. But either way, when we look at Gakpo's kind of positioning, you can see here he's kind of everywhere. He's not playing in that attack central kind of number 9 role. He's playing almost that Bobby thing, and again, if you've watched my Cody Gakpo video, you'll see these are the kind of positions that Firmino was always kind of taking up on the pitch. It was just everywhere, because he's not really going to be that lone striker up top. That's kind of, as we saw there with the average positions, that is then the job of a Mo Salah, to be able, to do. So, yeah, it is one of them ones in terms of Cody Gakpo. Scored again, which is going to be fantastic for his confidence. It breeds more confidence, especially going into this Real Madrid game. Can he take that level of confidence into that game? Can he perform well, under the lights, Champions League, against a fantastic team, regardless of who's going to be injured, still going to be a good team that we're going to be facing against. So, can he take that into the game? Let's wait and see. Will Liverpool play the same way? I don't know. They're going to, if they play the exact same team again, does that mean that we try to play the same way? Will that work? I don't know, man. I really don't know. But Gakpo, in terms of his overall performance, like I said, I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. Nothing too special. Nothing that really. It was just one of them kind of performances. To be honest with you, obviously we look here. This man right here. Now, I know Rom's is probably smiling if he's watching this back, but this man right here again. Mr. Chaos himself, man. Mr. Chaos himself. Got himself a goal. Got the first goal. He's just a nuisance, man. He's honestly just a nuisance. Now I got some of his stats up here. Duels. He lost all the duels that he faced in both ground and aerial duels, which I found quite funny. Accurate long balls, 2 out of 2. Obviously got himself a goal, but he was still a nuisance. He was still a nuisance, man. And that's the thing I always see. And the reason I put up those stats there anyway is because the way I'm always looking at a Darwin Nunez is that it depends on what you was really signed here to do and the kind of role that you was brought here to actually do. Were you brought here to score goals? At this rate, I don't know anymore. I'm struggling to believe that we saw it that way, because I do hear a lot of people, then say the goals will come, don't worry about it, he gets in the right positions, etc., etc. I think with him, you'd understand it more if you knew he was a good finisher, but when he gets into these positions, he just kind of fluffs his lines and things like that, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he's a good finisher at all. I think he's a very instinctive finish. He just reminds me of a Timo Werner, like a Raheem Sterling at Manchester City. They're them kind of guys, probably more Raheem Sterling, actually. Not even Werner, because Werner's an excellent finisher of the ball. You put Werner through on goal. I've seen him finish just some excellent chances, one-on-ones and stuff like that. But when you see like a Raheem Sterling, someone who's just able to penetrate space because they've got the pace. Darwin Nunez has got the strength to be able to get himself in there. You saw his positions the position that he took up for the goal in between the 2 centre backs once he's in between those two centre backs, it's all about his touch. Now we know what his touch has kind of been like, so I was a little bit worried when I saw that ball come over because I was thinking, yep, he's going to fluff his lines. That's the first thing I thought. No confidence. I just thought he's going to fluff his lines. But credit to Darwin Nunez, what he was able to do, bring that ball under his control, smack. You know, and it was a very good finish, man. Right, you know, rattled that, you know, into the back of the net. And like I said, good finish. And he's going to continue to be that nuisance, you know, for the team. Now, he did pick up a little bit of an injury at the end of the game. Liverpool need him. You know, again, I'm not, you guys already know, and you know, I've always got to be honest. I'm not his biggest fan or anything like that. But because of how much of a nuisance he's been for Liverpool this season, he's someone you got to have him on the pitch. We're going to need him. If we're planning to have a good game, he's going to be almost that outlet. Whether, you know, because it's at Anfield as well. If it was at the Bernabeu first, I'd almost be a little bit worried of someone like a Darwin Nunez, because I know that crowd, the players, you know, the manager, everyone's just going to be trying to wind him up, because that's just what they do over there. It's just a thing with Real Madrid. That's just what they're planning to do. Whether they can do that at Anfield, I don't know. But if it's at the Bernabeu, I can see that happening. At Anfield, we're going to have the crowd, going to have the, you know, the fans, the manager, you know, we can maybe try and play on the ref a little bit. That might help him. And I think if he can just continue that nuisance kind of behavior, cool, let's keep going. Like I said, between now and the end of the season, I don't care really. Obviously, I'll keep talking about the performances, what we can potentially do better, what doesn't look too great, but then also what does look good, you know. So at the end of the day, it is, as I always say, it is just one of those kind of things. And the attack yesterday as a whole, they were okay, man. And look, that first 35 minutes, well, the first 5 to 10 minutes actually, it was more Newcastle. I thought they were going to score. Almiron obviously getting through on goal as well. I thought that was going to go in. Thought he was just going to get it and pass Allison, who is a fantastic goalkeeper, man. It's I always find it difficult when we talk about, you know, the best of this and the best of that. He's obviously saving us this season. You know, without Allison, we'd definitely be in the bottom half of the Premier League. I can no doubt about that. But I always find it difficult because he's in that David De Gea stage where David De Gea had a good 2 seasons because Manchester United were really, really poor. And he was always that kind of beacon of light. You know, he's always just saving the team. But do you then rank that person as like the best? But context, as I always say, is so key in football. Are you ranking him the best because of what he's doing here? Well, he's doing it in a struggling side. He's doing it purely because he has to. Now, that's not to take away from Allison and his actual ability, because, like I said, I think Allison is one of, I don't know who, I couldn't really pinpoint it, but maybe on form he probably is, but he is definitely one of the top 2-3 goalkeepers out there in the world. But is that because every single week he's constantly having to save the team? You know, when he wasn't out there constantly having to save the team, I almost feel like he wasn't looked at like he's being looked at now. But maybe but then again, on the flip side of that argument, I then look at it and think, well, because he never had to really do much over the last couple of seasons, you never got to see his repertoire of skills. So, you know, it's like 6 of 1. You know, it's like 6 of 1. Again, not to take away from Allison at all, because without him, we would be in the bottom half guaranteed. Think about all the saves that he's made this season. Newcastle, as a whole, look, they went down to 10 men. We had enough quality in the team. Bajcetic in the middle again, playing in that kind of left central midfield role. Again, better against Everton than he was against Newcastle. Good little turn for the, well, we say a good little turn. It was I expect him to do that, to be honest. You get taught that when you're like 10 years old, you know, to open up your body kind of thing when a pass comes into you, to receive it on your kind of like your back leg. So that in itself, because I know a lot of people, again, this is just to address the people obviously talking about these things, hence the reason why I keep mentioning about, you know, not being too high, not being too low, kind of just watching it for what it is kind of thing. But again, in that middle of the park, I felt like he drowned a little bit. I did feel like he drowned a little bit. Let's put it this way, Fabinho and Hendo have better games than Bajcetic, which is funny because it's Bajcetic who's the one that we want to replace the Fabinhos and the Hendos in the team. So I did find that kind of funny to see that Fabinho and Hendo have better games than he did in the middle of the park. So, you know, 6 of 1, half a dozen in other again. But listen, with Bajcetic, I said it before, and many people have said this already, he's going to have bad games, he's going to have good games. He just needs that run. get him integrated into the team, which he's now doing, get him used to the team, get the team used to him, Van Dijk coming back as well, being used to playing with someone like that. Obviously, Thiago will then come back into the squad at a later date. All these things just need to get used to. So not to bash him or anything like that. Like I said, I did feel like he drowned a little bit in the middle of the park, but that's not to say, yeah, let's drop him for the next game. He doesn't deserve it. No. Play him the next game against Real Madrid. We're going to have to, because we ain't really got nobody else. But it's just to show people, like, at the end of the day, he's not going to be perfect every single game. Yes, one moment of brilliance in the sequence for the goal. Fantastic. Outside of that, I didn't really feel like he felt like it was quite non-existent, to be honest with you. But again, looking at his stats here, accurate long balls, none. One half of his tackles only made only one out of the two. Ground duels, less than half, 2 out of 5. Didn't have any aerial duels, committed a foul. Passes into final third was 4, dispossessed once. It was one of those kind of performances, but if you're having one of those kind of performances as an 18-year-old in a team that's going to win 2-0 anyway, I'm like, okay, cool. He's learning. Every game I feel that Bajcetic is playing, he's learning different things in different kind of games against different types of opponents, which I think is so key. I think it's more key than him balling out every single game. This ain't Mbappe. This ain't, Lionel Messi. Like, so I'm expecting you to have crappy games. So that's fine. I've got no real issues with that, especially when you're a better option than what we've actually got, available in the team. But, it is what it is. Looking at the Premier League table, we even take this banner off for you guys. Looking at the Premier League table, look, at the end of the day, Liverpool are, sitting there in 8th at this current moment in time. We've got a game in hand over Newcastle at the moment. So, does that then mean that we can potentially catch them? I don't know. I really, really don't know. I don't want to count my eggs, before they've hatched, to be honest with you. I think we've just got to kind of wait and see, how things pan out. I do believe actually we play twice before they play next. So we could actually overtake them. I believe we could potentially overtake them. I'm not 100% sure about that, but if we can, then fantastic. The teams above us, they're gonna start worrying a little bit, seeing that we're starting to catch up. We've got 2 games in hand over Fulham as well. Brighton are there as well. Brighton on the same points as us. They could potentially move up that table as well. They've got a game in hand. Just like us, over Tottenham, 2 over Fulham, 1 over Newcastle, 1 over United. So it's going to be an interesting end to the end of the season. But looking at yesterday's game, it was a different type of game. It was definitely good in phases, and I tweeted out in that first 35 minutes, it felt like the old Liverpool in terms of the intensity, the appetite, the passage of the play, the movement from the players, and all of these kind of various different things. I was thinking to myself, okay, cool, Liverpool are starting to, cool, like, I'm liking it, we're flying, then you go 2 goals up, you're like, all right, cool. Then they go down to 10 men, and it was like we just went back to that. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. Joe Gomez and Van Dijk, they played okay in the game, but they had their moments in the game where I was just like, it just almost looked like Dumb and Dumber at times. And I was just like, guys, come on, man. We're supposed to be 2-0 up against 10 men. I expect you to take charge in these. I expect you to have full control. I'm sorry, but I do expect you to have full control in these kind of games. I don't care who you're playing against and where you're playing. I expect that because of the quality of players that we have in comparison to a Newcastle. That's not a disrespect to Newcastle, but when you're 2-0 up and against 10 men of Newcastle, and you've got Van Dijk, Gomez, Robertson, Ali and Trent back there, in defense, I expect that level of control. And I just didn't feel that we really had that in the second half, but we were able to see out the game. We did also have our chances, in that second half, which could have just completely put the game, to bed. But I think we then got to a stage, maybe 65 minutes or so, and we just kind of thought maybe we don't go too crazy, because if we go too crazy, then it might just end up in a completely different scoreline. Lastly, I just wanted to quickly talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold. This is obviously his heat map from the game in itself, obviously, as always, up and down, showing that he's doing both the attack and defensive really, really well. He's proving to me now that he has quite learned something. Now, he only won 2 out of the 5 ground duels. They didn't have any aerial duels in the game. 3 clearances, 6 recoveries, dribble pass only once. Tackles, he won the only tackle of the game that that he had to do. And I think what we're seeing from Trent at the moment is he's definitely coming into his own in regards to, excuse me, he's definitely coming into his own in regards to his defending. He's definitely trying to show everybody that, you know, since the World Cup and everything like that, he has learned a thing or two about what he needs to be able to do in order for him to, you know, be this kind of all-rounded and complete defender. You know, we knew his defensive frailties, but I just think that now he is showing everybody that, you know what, I've learned, I've listened, I've learned, I've gone away, I've trained, I've done this, I've done that, I've listened to the manager, I've listened to, you know, advice from whoever he's listened to. And now we're seeing a different kind of, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. So, look, only 2 games, back-to-back victories, clean sheets. I'm very happy about that. Hopefully we can bring this kind of form into the game, you know, against Real Madrid. Let's wait and see. That's going to be a different type of proposition. We'll do probably a little preview, especially on the Jerry James show and stuff like that. But, you know, all in all, at the moment, 6 points out of 6. Let's keep going, man. We move. Let's just keep going. Keep that mentality. Next game, next game, next game. Get the victory. However you get the bloody victory, who cares? Let's just get it. Let's just move on. And then, you know, we'll be good to go. But that is my match reaction for the Newcastle-Liverpool game. Liverpool ran out 2-0 winners up at St. James's Park. I think overall, I'll probably give the team performance a 7/7.5 out of 10. It was a decent performance. Obviously, a bit of improvement that does need to be made. That doesn't make us look so vulnerable. But all in all, you know, we got the victory. That's all that really matters. 3 points, and we keep moving up that table. Is the top 4 still on? Guys, let me know in the comments. If you guys like the video, please make sure you smash that like button. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. It is absolutely shining outside. So I'm going to go outside, enjoy a bit of the weather, and you guys enjoy your Sunday and have a good evening. I'm G, and I'm out, man.